with COVID. The FDA is yet to approve it for COVID. We're going to be talking about why the FDA has not done so, even though this study suggests that it does, in fact, improve the outcome of people who've contracted the COVID-19.
You are out of order.
You are always out of order.
You are out of order. Shut up.
Why is the number always 11 million for illegal aliens? Have you noticed that? It's never 10. It's never 12. It's never 0.5. It's always 11. What is up with that? We're going to be talking about that. Meatloaf is dead at the age of 74. He was a pop crooner, did a couple of the greatest pop songs ever. My favorite by him was 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad. We will be efforting to find some of his music for you throughout the course of the program. Also, comedian Louis Anderson dead at the age of 68. Biden is still doing damage control for his comments about Ukraine. If it's just an incursion, you know, that's just one thing. Also doing damage control about his assertion that he's not quite sure whether he will accept the results of the elections of 2022 because these dastardly Republicans so far have refused to pass voting rights legislation that he thinks is vital in order to save our republic.
Is there a brain in there?
And on immigration, the Biden administration has reversed several of the Trump administration's policies, leading to more porous borders than perhaps at any time in recent memory. All of that and more. 888-971. Oh, I've been informed that I'm now live on YouTube, so our efforting has efforted out. Also, who is Zuby? Zuby turns out to be a British rapper who is quite impressive. Sent out a series of tweets. We're going to go over them if we have time later on in the program. But first, on the COVID front, here in the great state of California, from which I am broadcasting, California is the first state in the nation to announce COVID-19 vaccine requirements for schools. The state is now requiring all students grades 7 to 12, to be vaccinated for in-person learning effective July 1, 2022. All students grades 7 to 12. There is an ability to request a medical exemption. No guaranteed said medical exemption will be in fact granted. Now, in the UK, they do tally up the number of people who die of COVID under the age of 65, but who had no comorbidities. We don't do that here. There still isn't a good study about the number of people who have died or said to have died from COVID who did not have any comorbidities who were under the age of 65. But of the nearly 140,000 people that have died in England and in Wales, get this, just 2.7% of the deaths were people under 65 with no comorbidities. Now, there is a professor named Ehud Kimron in Israel. He is the head of the Department of Microbiology and Immunology at Tel Aviv University and one of Israel's leading immunologists. He has written an open letter harshly criticizing the Israeli response to the coronavirus pandemic. May I read you part of the letter? Thank you. It is my show after all, so I'm going to take leave and do so. It's an open letter to the Ministry of Health in Israel. Headline, Ministry of Health, it's time to admit failure. Quote, 2 years late, you finally realize that a respiratory virus cannot be defeated and that any such attempt is doomed to fail. You do not admit it because you have admitted almost no mistake in the last 2 years. But in retrospect, it is clear that you have failed miserably in almost all of your actions, and even the media is already having a hard time covering your shame. You refuse to admit that the infection comes in waves that fade by themselves, despite years of observations and scientific knowledge. You insisted on attributing every decline of a wave solely to your actions And so through false propaganda, you overcame the plague. And again, you defeated it, and again, and again. You refuse to admit that mass testing is ineffective, despite your own contingency plans explicitly stating so. You refuse to admit that recovery is more protective than a vaccine, despite previous knowledge and observations showing that non-recovered vaccinated people are more likely to be infected than recovered people. You refuse to admit that vaccinated are contagious. Despite the observations based on this, you hope to achieve herd immunity by vaccination, and you failed in that as well. You insisted on ignoring the fact that the disease is dozens of times more dangerous for risk groups and older adults than for young people who are not in risk groups, despite the knowledge that came from China as early as 2020. You refuse to adopt the Barrington Declaration, signed by more than 60,000 scientists and medical professionals, or other common sense programs. You chose to ridicule, slander, distort, and discredit them. Instead of the right programs and people, you have chosen professionals who lack relevant training for pandemic management, physicists as chief government advisors, veterinarians, security officers, media personnel, and so on. You have not set up an effective system for reporting side effects from the vaccines, and reports on side effects have even been deleted from your Facebook page. Doctors avoid linking side effects to the vaccine lest you persecute them as you did with some of their colleagues. You have ignored many reports of changes in menstrual intensity and menstrual cycle times. You hid data that allows for objective and proper research. Instead, you chose to publish non-objective articles together with senior Pfizer executives on the effectiveness and safety of vaccines. However, from the heights of your hubris, you have also ignored the fact that in the end, the truth will be revealed and begins to be revealed. The truth is that you have brought the public's trust to you to an unprecedented low, and you have eroded your status as a source of authority. The truth is that you have turned hundreds of billions of shekels to no avail for publishing intimidation, for ineffective tests, for destructive lockdowns, and for disrupting the routine of life in the last 2 years. You have destroyed the education of our children and their future. You made children feel guilty, scared, smoke, drink, get addicted, drop out, and quarrel, as school principals around the country can attest. You've harmed livelihoods, the economy, human rights, mental health, physical health. You slandered colleagues who did not surrender to you. You turned the people against each other, divided society, polarized the discourse. You branded without any scientific basis people who chose not to get vaccinated as enemy of the public and spreaders of the disease. There is no current medical emergency, but you've been cultivating such a condition for 2 years now because of lust for power, budgets, and control. The only emergency now is that you still set policies and hold huge budgets for propaganda and psychological engineering instead of directing them to strengthen the health system. This emergency must stop. End of quote. This is up on LarryElder.com. It's called Ministry of Health. It's time to admit failure. More on COVID when we come back. I'm Larry Elder. the other one. Some more money. I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind. How much?
Hi, Larry. This is Mike from Riverside. Hey, when is the GOP and the conservative pundits, when are they going to realize that all of Biden and his administration's decisions, this is intentional, the damage that they're doing to the country? The Afghanistan withdrawal. Nobody in their right mind would leave that much hardware and ammo and weaponry behind. The CRT, the BLM support, the divisiveness that they're fomenting everywhere, statues they're removing. Everything they do is designed to tear down this country and to cause us to divide it amongst ourselves. When are we going to finally realize that? That's the goal here.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. I want to get into Joe Biden cleaning up on Ukraine, cleaning up on what he said about the election integrity in 2022. He snapped at a reporter who said, why are we waiting for Putin to make the first move regarding Ukraine? And he said it was a stupid question. His numbers are down lower than at any point in his presidency, and they've already been down. Probably the most disastrous first year of any president, certainly in my lifetime. I'm going to be getting back to that in just a second, but I want to follow up on what the gentleman just now said about what the left is doing. There is a rapper in England named Zuby, Z-U-B like boy, Y. And he sent out a series of tweets that made him sound almost as profound and as deep and as thoughtful as Thomas Sowell. 36 years old, born in London, raised in Saudi Arabia and England. First-class education, studied at Oxford, graduated with first-class honors degree in computer science, plays piano, trombone, and gained worldwide attention when he said, "I identify as a woman," in quotes, and broke the British women's deadlift record, never having trained. And it was his way of saying that trans men ought not be allowed to compete against women. He has a podcast called Real Talk with Zuby, and then started rapping under the name of Zuby, and has done a PragerU video and was interviewed by Megyn Kelly not long ago. And he sent out a series of tweets the other day, and I want to read them to you. Quote, "I haven't seen many people make this point, but a core reason why the left in the West has become increasingly unhinged over the past decade is that as a society becomes more egalitarian, more fair, and non-discriminatory, their natural role and purpose becomes less clear and obvious." I've made the same point. I call them rebels without a cause, or rebels without a clue. Here's a second tweet. "This has really been the first time in history where there isn't clearly an entire demographic that is being mistreated by the law and society as a whole. The major battles have been won, but people don't know where to put their energy, so they start promoting dumb stuff." End of quote. Again, I've made a similar point. I have said that the civil rights struggle has been won. What the civil rights proponents should do is convert the troops to civilian duty, and let's get to the issue of what's going on with the breakdown of the family. Let's push choice in schools so that people can graduate and can read, write, and compute at grade level. But those kinds of struggles don't seem to be of much interest to people on the left. His third tweet, quote, "In fact, people have overcorrected so hard that they have created an entire new set of problems and have created more discrimination and division as a result. We live in this age of overcorrection, directionlessness, purposeless humans," close quote. I've made, again, a similar point in my current article. It's called MLK Day, Equal Rights versus Equal Results. It's up on LarryElder.com. And I talk about something that Joe Biden once said in 1975, and he's right. Here's what Biden said. Quote, "I do not buy the concept popular in the 1960s, which said we have suppressed the black man for 300 years, and the white man is now far ahead in the race for everything our society offers. In order to even the score, we must now give the black man a head start or even hold the white man back to even the race. I don't buy that," close quote, said Joe Biden. Of course, that was then. This is now. Joe Biden was right. There is a category of movies that people on the left have often criticized. They're called white savior movies. Movies like The Blind Side with Sandra Bullock, where she takes into her care a wayward black guy, and he ultimately ends up being professional with the NFL. It's been dismissed as white savior movies. But white savior commentators, people don't seem to have a problem with. And I took off on a guy named Skip Bayless. He is a sports commentator, has 3 million followers on Twitter. And after 2 head NFL black coaches were fired, he noticed that the NFL only had 1 black coach left. He found it shameful, embarrassing, disgusting. And I fired off a series of tweets, and I said, well, how many black coaches should they have? And if you have evidence that owners are discriminating against qualified black coaches, you have an obligation to say who they are. Otherwise, you are engaging in slander, in defamation, in what we now call McCarthyism. And I said it's an excellent way of making it more difficult to hire a black coach, because if you are a white owner, God forbid the coach should not perform to your level of expectation, you have to fire him. Then you have to deal with people like this social justice warrior, Skip Bayless, who, by the way, happens to be white. And if you're telling me that because the NBA is 70% black, the coaches should be 70% black, does that apply to the sports commentators? They're not 70% black from what I can tell. I watch a lot of sports on TV. So Skip Bayless, you're fired. Back to Zuby. Here's his fourth tweet. Social justice went from something good, righteous, and necessary to something pointless, annoying, and divisive in just a few decades. The activists themselves don't even truly know what they're fighting for anymore, but we all have to deal with the fallout. End of quote. I recall one of the Black Panthers, I believe it was Huey Newton, it might have been one of the other ones, but I believe it was Huey Newton. Maybe 10, 15 years or so after the height of the power of the Black Panthers, he said he missed the good old days. He missed the days in which he was confronting cops. He said he was bored. A lot of these people, these activists, they just regret they weren't born during the time where their activists really might have made some sort of sense. But as Zooey pointed out, for the most part, the major battles have been won. What they ought to be talking about is what's going on in China, breakdown of the family, poor public education, but they're not. He sent out a couple more tweets. We'll talk about those when we come back. 888-971-SAGE. Call right now. I'm Larry Elder, and this phone number, can you beat Kirk Friday?
Democrat Party will not challenge the recently enacted state voting laws in court because they would lose in court, and then they won't be able to cry and clutch their pearls and say that the laws were unconstitutional. They will only be able to just lose and cry. All right, buddy. You have a good night. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Hi, Larry. It's Tony calling from St. Paul, Minnesota. Just sitting here thinking about the elections that are coming up, and I'm thinking, how can you be against safeguards in an election unless you were cheating? And if you weren't cheating, you wouldn't have any fear of any safeguards. And you were talking about that Biden when he said it all depends. Yeah. And when they asked him the question about the next election, yeah, it all depends upon if they win or lose.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971. Yeah, well, it is kind of difficult, isn't it? You, on the one hand, you brag that more people voted than ever before, despite the alleged voter suppression. You're not taking these laws to court, as the caller pointed out, because they're perfectly legal. So you just go BMW about how racist Republicans are. And now you're saying that you're not going to necessarily accept the results of 2020 after having blasted Donald Trump for not having accepted the results of 2022, rather, for not having accepted the results of 2020. So they're in a tough spot. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Towels just don't seem to dry anymore. Oh, they feel all soft and lotiony in the stores, but you get them home and they just don't work. Mike Lindell found that out. So he scoured the country, found the best towel company right here in America, and they have proprietary technology to create towels that feel soft, but get this, they actually work. All made with USA cotton, and they come with the traditional MyPillow 60-day money-back guarantee. So check this out. 6-piece set, 2 bath, 2 hand towels, 2 washcloths, made with USA cotton, soft yet absorbent. Regularly $109.99, now just $39.99. So go to MyPillow.com, click on the new radio listener specials. You're going to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including but not limited to the towels. Enter promo code Larry or call 800-890-1843 for these great radio specials. That's 800-890-1843, or go to MyPillow.com. Make sure you use promo code Larry. The zip poll question I left you with last. Is crime, including violent crime, up where you live? 79% of you said yes. 79%. Here's the one for this weekend. We will go over the results on Monday. Did you watch live some or all of President Biden's recent press conference? Either yes or no. In order to participate, you must be a member of the Zip community. Go to your app store, download the Zip app by searching under Zip Poll USA, and we'll talk about those results on Monday. Back to Zuby's 5th tweet. Quote, there are still problems and always will be, but we actually achieved the fairest and most tolerant society ever about 10 years ago. Instead of celebrating that and tweaking it to optimize, it's getting destroyed and pushed backwards by overzealous, bored people. In other words, the types that you see on CNN and MSNBC that I watch so you don't have to. Quote, some people have activist personality types. When they have no real battles to fight, they won't stop fighting. They will simply invent a new enemy to fight, often creating a real one in the process, end of quote. I watch The View from time to time when I can stand it, and probably the leader of The View is Whoopi Goldberg. Do you realize that Whoopi Goldberg at one time was the highest paid actress in this country? She was making $7 million a film. That was probably 25, 30 years ago. Adjust that for today's dollars. Highest paid actress in Hollywood. And I remember she commented about that. She said, yeah, but they don't want to pay that. They don't want to pay that. So she still had to go BMW, even though she was the highest paid actress for a time in Hollywood. Fast forward now, she's the anchor of The View. BMW every single day. Monday through Friday. Why? Somebody who was raised on welfare, not exactly a cupcake, not exactly a babe, very talented, don't get me wrong, very funny when she did stand-up, when she did improv, became the highest paid actress in America for a year or two, maybe even 3. I can't remember how long it was. Watch her. Have you ever seen anybody complain more per square minute than the people on The View? Now, are you suffering from back, shoulder, neck, hip, foot, knee pain from exercise or just getting older? That sound like you? If so, consider ordering the 3-week quick start from Relief Factor. It's discounted to $19.95. That's less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. Well, after that, we're talking about less than the cost of a cup of coffee a day for you to stay out of pain. You see, the doctors who designed Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, each of which are 100% drug-free, to deal with pain from a different metabolic pathway. That's why over 70% of those who order the 3-week quick start go on to order more. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com. 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Hey, Larry, how you doing? I love the show, man. I just had a question. I've heard you talk about the axis of indoctrination with academia, the media, and Hollywood, and how they're all left. I was just wondering if you could hit on how that happened. How did they infiltrate it so much? Like, why hasn't conservatism made a dent in any of those areas? Thanks, buddy. I love you. God bless.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Yeah, that's a term that I have coined. Anytime you use it, I get 10%. Access of indoctrination, Hollywood, academia, media. Real quickly, well, the reason conservatives don't go into those fields is because they know they're going to be shafted by the people who are making decisions. Take academia. The idea when you go into college or university to become tenured. And the people who are going to decide whether or not you become tenured are the very people on the left that you will be writing against, speaking out against, challenging with your work. And they simply will not admit you to the club. So a lot of people that otherwise I think would go into academia and say, screw this, I'm going to the private sector where you produce and you get paid for what you produce. When you're in academia, after you get tenure, you can come out with any kind of cockamamie ideas you want. You don't have any pressure to write anymore, to produce anymore. And so you can put out dumb, stupid ideas, and even if those dumb, stupid ideas clash with reality, no harm, no foul. Same thing with Hollywood. What's the upside in coming out as an A-list actor and saying you're conservative when you're going to be denied parts as a result of it? I've told you many stories of people I know in Hollywood who have had their careers harmed because of the perception, true or not, that they're conservative. I think I told you about the story when some years ago, a scout locator came to my house and said, we're going to film a movie next door to your house. We'd like to use your property for catering services. So we negotiated a deal to do that. And the day they were shooting, I never saw a film being shot before. I'm on my front steps watching them shoot. The film was starring Antonio Banderas. And who's the actress who's married to Warren Beatty, Mr. McConnell? Annette Bening, thank you. And by the way, I had an interesting conversation with Antonio Banderas. He had a white terry cloth robe on, smoking a cigarette, sitting in my driveway. We're having a chat. It's kind of interesting. So as I'm on my steps watching them film, the head of the catering services comes over to me, and we start talking. He tells me he enjoys the show and so forth, but nobody could hear it because we were so far away. So about 6 months later, I get a phone call from him while I'm on the show. And he said, Larry, you remember me? I was at your house and I came up to your steps and we were talking. I said, yes. He said, I haven't worked since then. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, no one could tell what we were talking about, but clearly because I came over to you, it was obvious that I'm a fan of yours. I haven't worked since then. I could give you story after story after story about that. So if you're a conservative, why would you enter a field where, because of your views, you're going to be discriminated against, whether it's Hollywood, whether it's media, whether it's academia? That's why I believe so many conservatives have stayed away from entering organizations like the New York Times, LA Times. That's why people like Ben Shapiro, Andrew Breitbart, Daily Caller have formed their own media outlets. So that's why I believe that conservatives are shying away from some of these fields. Now let me get back to the last two tweets that Zuby put out. Let me repeat one of them. Quote, some people have activist personality types. When they have no real battles to fight, they won't stop fighting. They simply invent a new enemy to fight, often creating a real one in the process, close quote. I spent part of my junior year in Israel, 1973. I was 21 years old. I remember meeting this guy, white guy, had long hair like many hippies in those days did. And he told me he regretted that he wasn't black because he felt that he wanted to get involved in the struggle. I said, you can be white and get involved in the struggle. But he said he regretted that he wasn't black. I briefly roomed with a guy during this semester when I was in the Mediterranean and in Israel who was as waspy as you can get. And he would tell people he was Jewish. And I asked him why. And essentially he said he wanted a cause. Activist personality types. So I'm going to invent an identity so I can have a cause to be discriminated against. I mean, really? Here's the last of 7 tweets that Zuby put out, and I'm quoting him. there are a lot of former lefties and liberals who now find themselves being labeled conservatives or right-wing because they are simply trying to conserve liberalism itself, while progressives seek to nuke it. It's intriguing to watch. End of quote. Sharp guy, 36 years old, British rapper named Zuby. By the way, I went on YouTube to listen to some of his rap music. I'm Levi Stubb. We just played you Sonny, his version of Sonny. I mean, that's my genre. But he's not in my demo, and I'm not in his demo, so it's all good. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. The press secretary has been very, very busy trying to clean up for what Joe Biden said during his press conference. She was asked why Biden isn't more careful with his remarks, because after all, Biden has said words matter.
One, President Biden has repeatedly said the words of a president matter. So why isn't he more careful with his remarks?
Well, I think the president gave nearly 2 hours of a press conference last night. What we conveyed last night and this morning, was exactly what he's conveyed to President Putin. And I think what's important to the American public, and tell me if you agree or disagree, is what the president's positions are and what he means. And that's exactly what he provided directly this morning.
And Biden lashed out at a reporter after his press conference who said, "That's a stupid question," Biden said.
Why are you waiting on Putin to make the first move, sir?
Why are you waiting for Putin to make the first move, sir? It was a Fox News reporter who asked this question.
Why are you waiting on Putin to make the first move, sir?
You couldn't barely hear it, but Biden said, "That's a stupid question." Really? After you said this during your press conference?
I'm not so sure that he has, David, I'm not so sure he is certain what he's going to do. My guess is he will move in. He has to do something.
And the head of Ukraine not happy that Biden said, well, if it's a minor incursion, that's one thing. Now, all of a sudden, Biden sounds like John Wayne when it comes to Ukraine. All of that and more, 888-971-SAGE. And why are we always saying 11 million illegal aliens in the country? Now, if you are dealing with pain, I'm talking about back, shoulder, neck, hip, foot, knee pain, from exercise or just getting older, consider ordering the 3-week Quick Start. Still discounted to only $19.95. That is less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. Then after that, we're talking about less than the cost of a cup of coffee a day for you to stay out of pain. You see, the docs who designed Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, each of which are 100% drug-free, to deal with pain from a separate metabolic pathway. That is why over 70% of the people who ordered the 3-week Quick Start go on to order more. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
I need your sage wisdom once again. I'm hearing that the IRS is going to require a facial scan, and yet, as far as I know, the Democrats are still pushing that to vote, no ID is needed at all. Sure would appreciate your comment on the latest BS. It just keeps getting better all the time. Talk to you later.
Are you 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243 on this phone to Can You Beat Kirk Friday? We're going to be talking about photo ID, which, of course, is not part of the voting rights legislation that Joe Biden feels must be passed lest we squander our republic. There are 47 countries in Europe. What's their attitude about photo ID? All of that and more, 888-971-SAGE on this phone to Can You Beat Kirk Friday. Speaking of which, Can You Beat Kirk? The categories this week are This Week in the News, Movie Stars, Female Anatomy, Dictators, and Weather, as in WEATHER. So if you feel you're strong in This Week in the News, Movie Stars, Female Anatomy, Dictators, and Weather, stick around for the final hour where we'll be playing Can You Beat Kirk, and then after that we'll be playing Phone to Bro. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Shannon is in South Carolina. Shannon, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
No, that was North Carolina, but I was in South Carolina on Wi-Fi when I called.
Now you're North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Shelby, North Carolina.
All right.
Yes, sir. I hadn't called since before you ran for that position out in California. Sorry you lost.
Well, so am I.
Yeah.
So are a lot of Californians who didn't vote for me, Shannon.
Yeah, that is true.
Crime has gone up. The homelessness problem has gotten worse. Cost of living has gotten worse. Jobs have not been restored. And now they're mandating that if you are in the 7th to 12th grade, you have to be vaccinated for you to go to in-person school here in California. First state in the union to do that. So I think a whole lot of people are having voters' remorse.
I'm sure of that. And I could carry on about the vaccines, how they don't deal with ivermectin and all that, well, where they should, and monoclonal antibodies. That should be forced upon the medical field. They should do that. But anyway, I digress. I was going to mention about Joe Biden. He seemed to be one of those white saviors when he said, "If you ain't black, and if you don't vote for me, you ain't black."
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I wanted to say to your viewers. If you think the cheating was bad to get the squad and the far left and Joe Biden as a face elected as president, wait till Hillary runs. They're going to be cheating like crazy. We've got to put a lockdown on this cheating.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate it. God bless. I'm Larry Elder. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. On this Can You Beat Kirk Phone and Broke Friday. More on that in due course. I was thinking about some of the tweets put out by Zuby, the British rapper we talked about last hour. Quote, I haven't seen many people make this point, but a core reason why the left in the West has become increasingly unhinged over the past decade is that as society becomes more egalitarian, fair, and non-discriminatory, their natural role and purpose becomes less clear and obvious. He also said this has really been the first period in history where there isn't clearly an entire demographic that is being mistreated by the law and society as a whole. The major battles have been won, but people don't know where to put their energy, so they start promoting dumb stuff. And he said this, some people have activist personality types. When they have no real battles to fight, they won't stop fighting. They will simply invent a new enemy to fight, often creating a real one in the process, end of quote. So I started thinking about climate change. For people, that's a religion. Greta Thunberg.
My message is that we'll be watching you.
She said this at a climate summit 2019. My message is, but we'll be watching you, meaning we'll be watching you governments, we'll be watching you states.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Sigh. Al Gore.
Of another one of these, and they keep on coming.
But let me pick up on that, because let's say that we agree, and you know a lot of people don't. Some people don't. Some people that watch Fox News don't. Even if you believe in greenhouse gas and climate change, there's some questions about how effective the Paris Accord is in dealing with it. Here's what EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt said on Friday about the effectiveness of the U.S. target, which is to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by a quarter.
And Al Gore proceeds to say that the world needs to go green. We need regulation. Guess what John Kerry just said the other day? Listen to this.
In addition, we had unprecedented level of private sector engagement in this issue and in the process. And in the end, I think most of us feel very strongly that no government in the world has the amount of money we need to effect this transition. This has to happen by virtue of the private sector.
So here you have Greta Thunberg talking about how bad climate change is, and we're watching you, referring to government. Al Gore saying that the world needs to go green by regulation. And you have John Kerry just the other day saying, this is going to be done by the private sector. Now, for a change, to the extent that you believe that climate change is imperiling the world, it will be addressed, it has been addressed by the private sector. But more importantly, getting back to what Zuby said, many of these people have put their energy into this issue because they can't think of anything else to do. Racism is no longer a major problem in America. Sexism is no longer a major problem in America. We do have anti-Semitism, but even that isn't a significant problem in America. We have a big, sprawling welfare state. So a woman with 2 children, for example, and I think every state in the union makes more money than she'd make if she had a minimum wage job. So what's left? Now, there is an article in the New York Times, back in March 2009. I referred to it in the past. It's called The Civil Heretic. And it's an article about a physicist, brilliant physicist named Freeman Dyson. He's not a climate change scientist, but he's brilliant. He can reason. And he was a math prodigy, came to the country at the age of 23, did major work in physics, quantum electrodynamic theory, path-breaking science. Brilliant. He decided to look into this whole business of climate change. And because it became the big scientific issue of our time, writes the New York Times, he found it irresistible, a topic to get into. And he says that most people are dead wrong, including Al Gore, about climate change, about global warming. He began expressing his doubts. All of a sudden, people that thought he was brilliant no longer think he's brilliant. He says it's become a religion. It's become an obsession. He's particularly dismissive of Al Gore, who he calls climate change's chief propagandist, close quote. He's dismissive of a guy named James Hansen, head of NASA's Space Studies in New York and an advisor to Gore's film, An Inconvenient Truth. Accuses him of relying too heavily on computer-generated models, calls them guilty of lousy science, and for distracting the public from more serious and more immediate dangers to the planet. He disagrees with the prevailing view that there are rapidly rising carbon dioxide levels caused by human activity. He also says there are going to be positive consequences of a world getting slightly more warm. He said the crusade against coal overstates the harm that carbon dioxide can do. He said sea levels are rising steadily, but what kind of negative consequences it has, quote, cannot be predicted until we know much more about its causes, close quote. He says, I don't think it's time to panic. He said, all boils down to a disagreement about values between those who think nature knows best and that any gross human disruption of the natural environment is evil, or humanists like himself. He thinks fighting poverty and unemployment are far more important than fighting so-called climate change. And he said that economic improvement in places like China and India, from poverty to the middle class, could not have happened without coal. And to force feed us from a coal or fossil-based energy is to consign more and more parts of the world to poverty. And he says that people have accused him of being paid by the coal industry. He's not. Or the oil industry. He's not. He says people that think of global warming as a matter of moral conscience are arrogant. He said the history of science is filled with those who, quote, make confident predictions about the future and end up believing their own predictions. It's called the civil heretic. I'll put it up on LarryElder.com. Take a look at it. Very long article. He says the cost of what Al Gore wants us to do would be extremely large. It would make life more expensive and hurt the poor. And he said, besides, the Chinese are the biggest polluters. He says Al Gore is full of it when he says that climate change is causing violent hurricanes, typhoons, and tornadoes. Quote, that, of course, is just nonsense. He said regarding Katrina, all the damage was due to the fact that nobody had taken the trouble to build adequate dikes. To point to Katrina and make any real connection, he says, to global warming is very misleading. He says he thinks Al Gore does a brilliant job in propagandizing this issue, but it's not good science. The civil heretic. By the way, Freeman Dyson died just a couple years ago, I believe it was, at the age of 94 years old. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. During this 2-hour press conference, notice that Biden was not asked a single question about the borders. We're going to talk about the borders. I'm Larry Elder.
Hi, Larry. Everybody's getting all panties in a wad because Mitch McConnell didn't use the word other when referring to African Americans who voted just as much as other Americans. Since the Democrats love to put us in places, it's interesting. They get all hyped up about that, but then Joe Biden goes out and mentions Bull Connor and all the other stuff, and nobody does a thing. And the Democrats are responsible for that. Democrats were responsible for all the bad things that happened to the black. But that doesn't seem to matter.
I have a hard time listening to people that want to talk about this issue and don't talk about facts. In the United States today, it is more difficult for the average African American to vote than the average white American. That is not rhetoric. That is fact.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Study in Brazil on the use of ivermectin was offered as treatment for 2 consecutive days, every 15 days. Another group not. Conclusion: regular use of ivermectin as a prophylactic agent was associated with significantly reduced COVID-19 infection, hospitalization, and mortality rates, close quote, but ivermectin has not been approved by the FDA as a treatment for COVID-19. Just saying. Now, regarding voting, John Lott has a piece in the Washington Times pointing out that of the 47 countries in Europe today, 46 require government-issued photo ID to vote. The only one that doesn't is the UK, but they are soon going to make it a requirement. So soon, every single one of the 47 countries in Europe will have adopted a requirement of photo ID in order to vote. For absentee voting, 35 of the 47 countries, including France, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, and Sweden, ban absentee voting for citizens living in the country. Can't do it. Another 10 European countries allow absentee voting, including Ireland, England, Denmark, Portugal, and Spain, but they still require voters to show up in person and present a photo ID to pick up their ballots. Not like here, where you can just be out of town and have a ballot mailed to you. England used to have absentee voting rules similar to ours, but in 2004, in the city of Birmingham, massive vote fraud. The 6 winning Labour candidates, which is a Liberal Party, had acquired 40,000 fraudulent absentee votes, mainly from the Muslim areas of the city. As a result, England began requiring voters to pick up their ballots in person with a photo ID. Up until 1975, France also had loose absentee voting rules, but there was massive fraud on the island of Corsica, hundreds of thousands of votes by dead people, and even larger scale vote buying operations. France now ban absentee voting altogether. What about Canada, Mexico? Canada requires photo ID to vote. If a voter shows up at the polls without an ID, he is allowed to vote only if he declares who he is in writing and that someone who is working at the polling station can personally verify his identity. Mexico, in 1992, Mexico instituted strict reforms because its leaders were concerned. Voters must present a biometric ID, an ID with a photo and a thumbprint. Voters also have indelible ink applied to their thumbs, preventing them from voting more than once. And Mexico completely prohibits absentee voting. And by the way, those who argue that these integrity reforms amounts to voter suppression, In Mexico, the percentage of people who voted went from 59% before the reforms to 68% after. Turns out the Mexicans were more likely to vote when they had greater confidence that their votes, in fact, counted. Now, let's get back to immigration, which was not asked during the 2-hour press conference to my knowledge, and I watched or heard most of it. This is a report this morning, Fox News. I watch a lot of CNN and MSNBC, hee-haw, so you don't have to, and they couldn't care less about what's going on the borders.
Throughout this border crisis, we have frequently seen these single massive groups all coming across together at once, and it just happened 2 times in 2 days down here. Take a look at this remarkable footage given to us by a law enforcement source showing 400 illegal immigrants crossing into Eagle Pass, Texas, Wednesday night ahead of this winter storm we're dealing with here in Texas. The sector chief in Del Rio actually posted some photos of this group himself. We can pull those photos up right now. A massive group, again, all coming across at once. And the crazy thing about this is this exact same thing happened the very night before. Another group of 400 came across Tuesday night, but that's the size of the groups coming across in some parts of the border. Meanwhile, take a look at this video we shot down here in the Rio Grande Valley. You often hear us talking about runners. This is video as we embedded with Texas DPS near the La Jolla area where we are, tracking down runners in the brush. Again, these are mostly those single adult men who do not want to be caught, usually dressed in black or camo. This group you're looking at, what was interesting was there were 2 men from China who were caught in this group. You're going to see one of their faces highlighted as they're being walked out of the brush, but just goes to highlight the fact that they continue to come in from all over the world. Then take a look at this video out of Laredo. We talk about how Texas DPS is frequently getting in so many vehicle pursuits out here involving human smugglers. They pull over this truck near Laredo. It's got a bunch of wooden crates on the back. They talk to the driver and they start cranking open those crates. Take a look at what they find inside. Dozens of illegal immigrants being smuggled. They were locked inside, had to use basically a crowbar and drill to get these boxes open. Ultimately, they recovered 22 illegal immigrants out of that truck, which was stolen, by the way. The driver arrested for human smuggling. And then back out here live, we have learned that more than 100 lawmakers, mostly GOP House and from the Senate, have sent a letter to the DHS Office of the Inspector General asking for a full investigation of the Biden administration's handling of the border, which they say has led to the worst border crisis in history. What are they asking for? A full accounting of everything, including internal White House communications, details on how many illegal immigrants have been released into the country, and where exactly those immigrants have been resettled in the country.
That's a report by Bill Malugan. We come back. Jen Psaki was asked whether or not the Biden administration is going to reconsider its border policies. And why is it that we keep saying 11 million illegal aliens? It was just an article in the Daily Mail. 11 million, 11 million, 11 million. Why? I'm Larry Elder.
You're a master of getting to the root of what's wrong and why it's wrong. I have a solution for Jen Psaki or whoever's running this country. Can we get the commander in Vertigo to get Afghanistan to go against Russia? 2 reasons. Afghanistan now has many of our weapons, and number 2, Afghanistan may want to get revenge on Russia for invading them in the 80s. Just an idea, Larry. Maybe you can kick that around.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Remember, in the third hour, we will be playing Can You Beat Kirk? The categories this week are This Week in the News, Movie Stars, Female Anatomy, Dictators, and Weather. So you think you're strong in This Week in the News, Movie Stars, Female Anatomy, Dictators, and Weather. Give us a call at 888-971-7243, 888-971-SAGE. When we play Can You Beat Kirk? We'll also be playing Phone a Bro later on that hour. Now, towels just don't seem to work anymore, do they? They feel soft, lotiony in the stores. You get them home, they don't absorb. So Mike Lindell scoured the country, found the best towel company. They've got proprietary technology to create towels that feel soft but actually work. They come with the My Pillow 60-day money-back guarantee, 6-piece set, 2 bath, 2 hand towels, 2 washcloths, soft yet absorbent. Regularly $109.99, but now just $39.99. Just go to MyPillow.com, click on the new radio listener specials. You're going to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including but not limited to the towels. Enter promo code Larry or call 800-890-1843 for these great radio specials. That's 800-890-1843 for these great radio specials, or go to MyPillow.com, promo code Larry. Now, you mentioned Jen Psaki. She seemed to have difficulty with this one.
A lot of other questions about voting rights and the integrity of the election. You said the president's intention was not to cast doubt on the upcoming midterms. But when a reporter followed up, the president said to him, "I'm not saying it's going to be legit. The increase in the prospect of being illegitimate is in direct proportion to us not being able to get these reforms passed." So yes or no, does the president believe, if all remains as it is right now, that the elections this fall will be legitimate?
But what the point he was making is that as recently as 2020, as we know, the former president was trying to work with local officials to overturn the vote count and not have ballots counted. And we have to be very eyes wide open about that and clear-eyed that that is the intention potentially of him and certainly of members of his party.
Do you have any idea what she just said? Notice to keep using the word clear, which indicates how clear it isn't.
We've been clear.
I think you heard very clearly multiple times last night from the president. The president has been crystal clear.
Let me be very clear on what the president has conveyed directly to President Putin.
The president was very clear. He's got a plan to do that.
It is clear to us that the decision is probably in his hands. We are clear and have been clear for quite some time.
Dave is in Michigan. Dave, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Yeah, hi, Larry.
How are you?
Larry?
Yes, sir.
Oh, there you are. I love your show, but I wanted to let you know you keep saying about Michigan being sent ballots.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we never got sent any ballots, as far as our household, and we voted in person. So I'm not sure where that's coming from.
Well, what I read, and I'll check it, is that everybody in Michigan was sent a ballot whether he or she requested one. Not true?
Yeah, no, we never received any ballot.
Well, is
So
it
I'm
that
not sure exactly
is that
where
because
that-
is that because you never received one, or is that because there was no policy to do it? I mean, what I've read several times, and I'll check it, and you do it as well, that everybody in Michigan got a ballot whether he or she requested one.
Yeah. Well,
I'll check.
that wasn't our case, and I vote, pretty much every election.
I believe you. I believe you didn't get one, but let me check and see. That's what I read. That was one of the bases for a lawsuit, as far as I know, regarding Michigan. But I will absolutely check it, David. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Now, Jen Psaki was asked, given your record on the border, do you guys have anything to rethink?
On the border now, it did not come up yesterday. Yet in 2021, we believe there were 2 million encounters at the southern border, just blowing away all kinds of records. There does not seem to be much of a suggestion that the policy is going to change. Should we expect 2 million more encounters in the year 2022 now?
Well, I'm surprised, Bill, as well, because it was a nearly 2-hour press conference and people asked whatever they wanted, including some crazy questions in there. But I will say, Bill, what the president's view is that we need to do more. We need to fix our broken immigration system.
So we need to fix our broken immigration system. You have no qualms about what you've done to repeal policies that Donald Trump implemented that gave us the most secure border in recent memory. Now, if you're still a customer of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, you're choosing to support candidates and issues they donate to. You're funding Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, and their left-wing agenda. But Pure Talk, as I said, uses the exact same tower, same 5G network as one of those companies, but you're going to have the peace of mind knowing that you're supporting a veteran-run business. This is one monthly bill you can be proud to pay, and oh, by the way, probably costs you about half of what your current cell phone bill is because the average family saves over $800 a year. So do this. From your cell phone, dial pound 250, say Larry Elder, and because Pure Talk loves my listeners, you're going to save an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250, say Larry Elder, pound 250, and say Larry Elder. Pure Talk. Okay, can you
Hey, Larry, Rob from Minnesota. You know, every time I see a police officer, I tell them that they should be top of the pay scale, because my doctor, my lawyer don't have to wear a gun to work. Don't worry about coming home, whether they're going to come home or not. And I had one police officer tell me I should be in charge anyway. I'm retired.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. So I've got a press release from the Office of Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson of Michigan. Quote, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson announced today that all registered voters in Michigan will receive an application to vote by mail in August and November elections. By mailing applications, we have ensured that no Michigander has to choose between their health and their right to vote. Voting by mail is easy, safe, and convenient, and every voter in Michigan has the right to do it. Here's another press release, May 22, CBS News. All registered Michigan voters have been sent absentee ballot applications, and every voter who is registered will be receiving one. So that's what I meant, and they did. Whether you requested it or not, that was new. That's what the Secretary of State did in Michigan, and that was the basis for a lawsuit that the Trump people filed. And again, the courts did not take it up based upon procedural issues. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. Now, article in the Daily Mail referred to the number of illegal aliens in the country as 11 million. You hear that number over and over and over again. This is a study that was done by Yale professors, and here's what they said about this 11 million number.
Conventional estimates provided by both the Pew Foundation and also the Center for Migration Studies suggest that number is a little over 11 million. And those figures are arrived at via surveys where people are actually questioned as to whether or not they were born outside of the United States and whether they are citizens. What we have done is something quite different. We have not administered surveys. Rather, we have collected both operational data, such as deportations and visa overstays, and demographic data, such as death rates and emigration rates, and combine these using a demographic model that follows a very simple logic, which is that the population at some point in time is equal to whatever that initial population was, plus everyone who came in, minus everyone who goes out. It's that simple. That's essentially what the model does. We discover that the survey-based result that there are 11.3 million undocumented immigrants seems to fall far short. We have a conservative estimate that says the number is at least 16.7 million, and over 1 million different scenarios, accounting for all of the variability in the various parameters that we need for this model. On average, we're estimating something like 22 million undocumented immigrants in the United States.
22 million. These are Yale professors. And we hear this same number all the time, 11 million, 11 million, 11 million. Just as when Ronald Reagan granted amnesty in the 80s, the number of people who applied was twice what they thought. Similarly, when and if we have amnesty, it's not going to be 11 million. It's going to be at least twice that, maybe even more. Now, the Ukrainians were shocked that Biden suggested that a minor incursion would be okay. This is a CNN reporter.
Well, I mean, to say, Erin, that they were displeased when they heard those comments would be an understatement. One of the officials that I spoke to said that he was shocked when he heard President Biden draw a distinction between an incursion and an invasion, and to suggest that if there was some kind of minor incursion into Ukrainian territory, then that would be treated differently and elicit lesser sanctions than a major invasion. It's not the kind of nuance we've heard before. It's certainly something Ukrainian officials say they've never heard spelled out to them, although I understand it's that kind of sliding scale of sanctions depending on the seriousness of the Russian action that's being discussed privately.
But not to worry, Kamala Harris told Gayle King of CBS that Biden was clear.
The people in Ukraine today, we understand, are very upset with that because they believe that the president has given President Putin the green light. What do you say to that? Because it does seem to be very confusing.
So the president, let me just first tell you, I start every morning reading the presidential daily briefing, which contains classified information about threats to our national security and hotspots around the world. I am often in meetings in the Situation Room where the president and I and members of our leadership of our military, our intelligence community convene on these issues. The president of the United States, Joe Biden, has been very clear on the subject of Ukraine, which is that if Russia takes aggressive action, there will be severe and swift consequences. That there will be a price to pay.
He didn't seem to say that yesterday, though, at the news conference. That's why I think clarification is needed.
Well, we are very clear, and we've been very clear with Putin, that any aggressive action taken by Russia will meet a cost, a severe cost.
Now, that was CBS. Meanwhile, on today's show, NBC, also Savannah Guthrie confronted Kamala Harris.
Ukrainian officials reportedly heard these words from President Biden with alarm. I know the White House tried to clarify it and clean it up afterwards, but was the damage done? You can't unring the bell. Is Vladimir Putin likely to listen to a later statement from the White House press secretary or the words of President Biden?
I will repeat myself. And I'm Vice President of the United States, and the President and I work closely together, and I know his position because he has been consistent in that regard. If Vladimir Putin and Russia takes aggressive action, it will be met with a cost that will be severe.
Again, in the third hour, we will be playing Can You Beat Kirk and Phone a Bro. And Dave, you are right. Not everybody received a absentee ballot. They all received an application for an absentee ballot. Thank you very much for the correction. I appreciate it. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Now, three-way quick start, $19.95. I mean, honestly, that's less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. After that, we're talking about less than the cost of a cup of coffee a day to stay out of pain. You see, the doctors who formulated Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, each of which are 100% drug-free to deal with pain from a different metabolic pathway. So if you've got pain, I'm talking about back, shoulder, neck, hip, foot, knee pain from exercise or just getting older, consider ordering the 3-week Quick Start. The doctors who designed it selected 4 100% drug-free ingredients, each of which deals with inflammation from a different metabolic pathway. That is why so many people get such wonderful relief. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, great Oldersky, why are they charging so little for the 3-week Quick Start? Well, the idea is to make sure it works for you. After that, Relief Factor doesn't begin making any money until almost 4 months after you began ordering. The idea is to make sure you are one of the 70% who ordered the 3-week Quick Start who go on to get relief. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Yes, Larry. My mother was a quadriplegic from 1985 till she passed away in June of 1998. Every election during that period of time, she voted by absentee ballot. So what the Democrats are spouting makes no sense. But again, where there's no sense, there's no feeling.
SAGE 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Next hour, we'll be playing Can You Beat Kirk and Phone a Bro. We're also going to talk about a well-known politician who visited Los Angeles recently, looked at the area where the looters are stealing off these railroad cars, and says this looked like a third world country. What politician do you think said that area of L.A., quote, looks like a third world country, close quote? Largely because of his policies that have caused so many looters to be encouraged to loot. Had the nerve to come to L.A. and say, this place looks like a third world country. Who am I talking about? Stick around for that. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Mark is in Spartanburg. Mark, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
How you doing, Mr. Elder?
I'm doing well, sir.
Hey, I was going to call to get your opinion on I guess it was a situation. During the Barack Obama's term, he signed a law saying that you can wiretap people, foreign domestic, as long as they're, I guess, labeled as terrorists. My question is, do you think that's constitutional? And my second question for that is, how would a regular American citizen combat that if they were to be wiretapped?
Well, Mark, thank you for the call. I think you're talking about the Patriot Act, and that was done after 9/11. That was done by George W. Bush. I believe that it remained in force. I know it remained in force during the Obama years. I don't think there's anything illegal about it at all. One of the parties of the transaction has to be outside the country, and of course, it's got to be some sort of probable cause in order to do that. And I think it's perfectly legal. But it was passed, if I'm not mistaken, after 9/11, the Patriot Act under George W. Bush. Mark, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. Now, we come back. Number of things. We're going to talk about Biden and his decision to withdraw from Afghanistan. He says during his 2-hour press conference he does not regret it. He was challenged by Chris Hayes on MSNBC, Ron Klain, his chief of staff, about his policies in Afghanistan that has resulted in widespread starvation and the oppression of human rights in Afghanistan. All of that and more. And Kamala Harris was pressed on today's show about Joe Biden and 2022, whether or not Joe Biden feels that the election of 2022 will be legitimate unless they pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and a companion act that Biden feels is necessary to save our republic. I'm Larry Elder. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. We're just a few minutes away from playing Can You Beat Kirk? Matthew from Indiana needs an opponent. Call right now, 888-971-7243, 888-971-SAGE to play Can You Beat Kirk, which we will be doing in the next segment. Categories this week are This Week in the News, Movie Stars, Female Anatomy, Dictators, and Weather, WEATHER. So if you feel you're strong in categories This Week in the News, which I'm sure you're on top of if you watch the Larry Elder Show and listen to the Larry Elder Show. You can watch and listen to it, by the way. You can go to salemnews.com and watch the show. Salem News Channel. And we're also up on YouTube, youtube.com/Larry Elder, Larry Elder Show Radio. Also go to my website, LarryElder.com. Lots of ways to skin this cat. Uh-oh, don't tell Peter. Categories are This Week in the News, Movie Stars, Female Anatomy, Dictators, and Weather. Call right now, 888-971-7243, 888-971-7243. And then later on in the hour, we will be playing Can You Beat Kirk? You know how that works. We have 5 sound bites that we played this week. I meant Phonobro. What did I say? Can You Beat Kirk? Man, it's a little late, huh? We're going to be playing Phonobro. And you know how that works. We have 5 different sound bites taken from this week's group of shows. Whoever gets the 5th and final soundbite correctly will win the entire contest, no matter what happened ahead of time. And the winners of Can You Beat Kirk and Phonobro will get a copy of A Lot Like Me, book about my 8-hour conversation with my dad. And the loser gets nothing because we do not do participation trophies on the Larry Elder Show. So 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Now, I mentioned a politician came to the City of Angels to take a look at what's going on regarding the Union Pacific train cars that have been broken into and goods have been stolen. And this politician pronounced what he witnessed as looking like, quote, a third world country. I am, of course, referring to my former opponent, California Governor Gavin Newsom, who supports soft on crime DAs, who oversaw the release of some 18,000 convicted prisoners, including those convicted of violent offenses, who supported George Gascon, supported the DA in the Bay Area. In fact, he was the first one who appointed George Gascon as DA of San Francisco, and Gascon then traveled south and became the DA of Los Angeles, displacing, by the way, the first black female L.A. County DA because she wasn't left-wing enough. Gavin Newsom also supported Proposition 47 and 57. 47 allows you to steal up to $950, not just a day, but per store, without fear of going to jail because you're not a felon. You've committed a misdemeanor, assuming you get caught, get a ticket, and you don't have to show up to court because we have cashless bail. Gavin Newsom also supported Proposition 57 that categorized a whole number of categories of crime as nonviolent, up to and including things like assault on a police officer, nonviolent, serial arson, nonviolent, rape of an intoxicated victim, nonviolent, felony battery, domestic battery, nonviolent. And he's shocked that there's an area of L.A. riddled by thieves that looks, he says, like a third world country. All of you guys out there who voted for Gavin Newsom, do you miss me yet? Now, Obama's Commerce Secretary says, by any measure, we got a strong economy. Wages are going up.
Thank you. As you say, these are, strong numbers. By any measure now, we have a strong economy, created over 6 million jobs last year. We're the only economy in the world that is stronger now than pre-pandemic. and the unemployment rate has fallen like a rock over the past year. So we look at those numbers. I mean, week to week, month to month, there are small variations, but it's a strong employment picture. Wages are up.
Wages are up. Tell that to an economist who appeared just the other day on CNBC about wages going up.
Well, it's possible, especially if you're talking about real wages, which are negative if you look at these CPI numbers.
Real wages negative, says Neela Richardson on CNBC, chief economist for ADP.
Well, it's possible, especially if you're talking about real wages, which are negative if you look at these CPI numbers.
Okay, Joe Biden says he doesn't regret his decision to withdraw from Afghanistan.
I'm deeply saddened by the facts we now face, but I do not regret my decision to end America's war fighting in Afghanistan and maintain a laser focus on our counterterrorism missions there and other parts of the world. Our mission to degrade the terrorist threat of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and kill Osama bin Laden was a success. Our decades-long effort to overcome centuries of history and permanently change and remake Afghanistan was not. And I wrote and believed it never could be.
Okay. His chief of staff, Ron Klain, was on MSNBC that I watched, so you don't have to. The host is Chris Hayes, who, by the way, did come on our show. One time we had an interview with him. He's supposed to stay for the whole hour. He kind of ducked out the last segment. I guess he couldn't take the punishment, but at least he came on. Here is Chris Hayes interviewing Ron Klain, Joe Biden's chief of staff, about Afghanistan.
One last and really important question, and it has to do with Afghanistan. The president got the question about withdrawal yesterday. The U.S. has sanctions against the Taliban, has not recognized the Taliban government, both of which I understand why those are in place. We've also put a freeze on about $9 billion in the Afghan government's assets, which are actually held here, which means they can't access it. Human rights groups estimate that as many as 20 million Afghans are now facing famine in a country that is the poorest in the world. What possible justification is there for the U.S. government to keep freezing those assets or to block aid or recognition of the Taliban if the result of it is tens of millions of people facing starvation?
Well, I'd say, Chris, the rationale is the horrible acts of the Taliban regime, and that's why these assets are frozen. I do think, though, we have to be part of finding a humanitarian solution to avoid a humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, and it's something we're working on here every day.
We want to avoid a humanitarian crisis. We're looking for a solution. We work on it every day, having pulled out precipitously without telling our allies to create the very famine that you're working on to solve. Okay, got it. Jen Psaki says Biden wasn't questioning the integrity of the 2022 elections at all.
Elections are going to be suspect?
Well, I talked to the president about this last night and this morning. He was not intending to cast doubt on the legitimacy of the 2020 election. He was actually attempting to make the opposite point, which is that in 2020, despite COVID, despite many attempts to suppress the vote, a record number of voters, Democrats and Republicans, independents too, turned out in the face of a pandemic, and election officials made sure they could vote and have those votes counted. He was also explaining that the results would be illegitimate if states do what the former president asked them to do in more than a half a dozen states in 2020, after the 2020 election, toss out ballots and overturn results after the fact. And his view is that one of the most important roles we can play now is informing and educating the public on what these laws are, on efforts to suppress their vote, and even beyond the laws, efforts in different states across the country to make it more difficult for them.
So she's doubling down. If you don't pass these laws, and they're not going to pass them, these dastardly Republicans have now put into play a question about whether or not these elections are going to be legitimate. Isn't that what they've been hammering Donald Trump for saying about 2020? This thing on? Coming up, can you beat Kirk? 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. And after that, Phonabro. More on that in due course. Matthew versus, is it Henry? Henry in Cleveland. SAGE 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. It is time now for Can You Beat Kirk? We have two contestants. We have Matthew from Indiana versus Henry from Cleveland. Matthew called in first. Matthew gets to go first. Matthew, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you, Mr. Elder?
I'm doing well. I love the enthusiasm, Matthew. You got plans this weekend?
Oh, just working on the house and listening to my favorite man, Mr. Elder.
Well, I love that. Outstanding. Good answer. I think let's give Matthew a book already. All right, Matthew, we got 5 categories, sir. This week in the news: movie stars, female anatomy, dictators, and weather. Where shall we start?
Well, I guess I'll start on my worst subject of movie stars.
Okay. I think you'll enjoy this one. The films, Matthew, in which this actor has appeared have had the greatest worldwide box office receipts than any other actor in history. Name the actor. The films in which this actor has appeared has had the greatest box office receipts than any other actor in history. What actor am I talking about?
Not actress, actor.
I said actor. But I will say hold on. But I will say that nowadays the term actor is a gender neutral term. You know, the Academy Awards gives you best male actor and best female actor. They don't say actor and actress anymore. They say male actor and female. So it could be a female. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I don't need those sensitivity training. There's only 2, if you ask me. Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood. Matthew, do not go away. Do not go away. Do not go away. We've got Henry from Cleveland. Henry, how are you?
Fine, Mr. Elder. How are you?
I'm doing great. Henry, are you east side or west side?
East side.
Okay.
West side. East side.
Okay, because, I don't talk to people on the west side when I live there. I've got my standards. Henry, you heard the question. The films in which this actor has appeared have had the greatest worldwide box office receipts than any other actor in history. What actor am I referring to?
Oh, man. History. Oh, gosh.
His films have made more money than any other group of films in history, the ones he's appeared in, this actor or actress.
I would go with someone like Samuel L. Jackson.
You will go with someone like Samuel L. Jackson, and you will be correct, sir. Nicely done. Henry, you didn't sound very confident. His films have grossed more money than any other actor by far. It's not even close. But let's move on. The score is now 1-0. You are now in control of the board, sir. The remaining 4 categories are This Week in the News, Female Anatomy, Dictators, and Weather. Where next, Henry?
Female anatomy.
Female anatomy. You sound like a specialist. All right, here we go. Henry, what is the abbreviation P as in Paul, M as in Mary, S as in Sam stand for? What does the abbreviation PMS stand for, Henry?
Premenstrual syndrome.
Nicely done. You have daughters?
No.
No. Just okay. Just a well-rounded guy. Okay, I got it.
Right.
The score is now 2-0. Matthew is sweating bullets. Henry, you're still in control of the board. We have 3 more categories. They are This Week in the News, Dictators, and Weather.
How about weather?
Weather. Sounds good to me. All right. Henry, a tornado is a narrow, violently rotating column of air that extends from a thunderstorm to the ground, of course. Which country has the most tornadoes in the world? The score is 2-0. Henry over Matthew. Which country has the most tornadoes in the world?
How about the USA?
How about the USA? All right. The score is now 3-0. Henry, you've taken a commanding lead. We have 2 more categories. Let's play them out for grins. They are Dictators and This Week in the News. Where next, sir?
How about this week in the news?
How about this week in the news? All right, Henry. L.A. County Sheriff Alex Villanueva is allowing the feds, rather than the L.A. County prosecutor, to handle the case of an off-duty LAPD officer who was murdered. Who is the DA of L.A. County?
Can I get any help?
Negative. This is not Phonobro. This is Can You Beat Kirk? L.A. County Sheriff Alex Villanueva is allowing the feds, rather than the L.A. County District Attorney, to handle the case of an off-duty LAPD officer who was murdered. Who, in fact, is the DA of L.A. County?
How about Larry Elder?
All right, hold on. Don't go away. Don't go away. Let's get Matthew back in the game. Matthew, who's the DA of L.A. County?
I believe it's George Gascon.
Correct. And the final category is dictators. You're right. The final category is dictators. Matthew, here's the question. In what country was Adolf Hitler born? In what country?
Israel.
I don't think so. All right, Matthew. Matthew, don't go away. Let's go back to Henry. Henry, you win. The score is 3-0. 3-1, excuse me.
Somebody give me an amen.
Henry, just for grins, where was Adolf Hitler born?
I think it was Austria.
It was Austria. Well done, sir. So, Henry, stay on the line. We're going to get your vital information. You really, really kicked tail this week. Sorry the Indians and the Cavaliers and the Browns haven't done all that well recently, but I still love the city. Spent 17 great years there, lived on the west side. I had a friend who lived on the east side. I had a friend who lived on the west side, so I wasn't opposed to going there. I didn't spend a whole lot of time there. Anyway, thank you very much for that. Now, former President Trump, was on Hannity last night, had some things to say about Nancy Pelosi turning down the request for the presence of more force on January 1.
100%, and attested to by many people, and they turned it down. Nancy Pelosi turned it down. I guess they both did, but Nancy Pelosi turned it down, and she's in charge of the Capitol. So they run the Capitol, the security of the Capitol. If you had 10,000 or 20,000, but if you had 10,000, if you had 5,000 soldiers wrapped around the Capitol, you would have had no January 6th as we know it. There would have been no problem whatsoever. But they turned it down, which tells you everything. It was 3 days before.
Now, when we come back, Mindy from Texas has a question about voting. Mindy, please don't leave town. And then later on, we're going to be playing Phonobro, 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Great Eldersky.
Larry, Uncle Tom was amazing, simply brilliant, so fantastic in every way, shape, and form. Honestly, my favorite part was Herman Cain and Carol Swain, but Herman Cain, so funny, so beautiful, made me laugh, made me cry. Great movie, great work, Larry. You're doing amazing things. Keep it up.
SAGE 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Well, thank you so much. That's a Malone film. Justin Malone, co-writer, directed it. I was the executive producer. Also, writer Ansel was also one of the writers. Three of us wrote it. And we have a sequel coming out called Uncle Tom 2. I'll give you more information on that in due course. Thank you so much for the kind remarks. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Mindy is in Texas. Mindy, you're on the Larry Elder Show.
Hi, Larry. It's so good to talk to you. I contributed to your California campaign from Texas.
Well, thank you.
And I still get your emails and intend on contributing to your PAC also.
I appreciate it.
I also contributed some to former President Trump for his upcoming campaign. I did want to say I used to live in San Diego. My family relocated to Houston, south of Houston. And 58 years old, divorced. I was on disability for 5 years. And when my surgeries were over, I'm back in the workforce now. I've been back in the workforce for about a year and a half. And I was able to get ballots so that I could vote while I was on disability. So I didn't have any trouble getting any mail-in ballots. I did want to say one of the things that concerns me when I get emails from my state, my federal representatives and senators, Cornyn and Cruz and the rest of them, and they give me this list of things to pick from. What is my top issue that I want worked on the federal level? And I always pick other, and I put electoral integrity because I really feel like that election was stolen and there was mass amounts of corruption. The town that I live in, Friendswood, Texas, when we turned in our mail-in ballots to the post office, to the little box that sits outside the post office, that box was actually raided several times, and there were thousands of ballots found in some of the bios around Friendswood. So election integrity, that really matters to me, number one, because if you don't have that, nothing else matters. And I've been hearing about I think it was New York that's now allowing non-citizens to vote on a local level.
Correct.
Not in state or federal elections, but local levels.
Right.
And I just feel like that's a slippery slope that I don't understand how a non-citizen can be allowed to vote in any election.
It doesn't make any sense to me either, Mindy. And at one time, I recall that was a position that Hillary Rodham Clinton used to have. Yeah, I think it's as many as 800,000 non-citizens are now eligible to vote in New York City. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And you're right, it's a slippery slope. What they want, of course, is as many Democrats to vote as possible. Do you think that they would be doing this if 800,000 non-citizens would likely vote Republican? I've said this before, I'll say it again. If illegal aliens, turned citizens, turned voters would likely vote Republican, the borders would be sealed tighter than the clams behind. But they assume that a larger number of non-citizens will vote Democrat, just as they assume people who are convicted felons who have been released will likely vote for the Democratic Party. That's why they want convicted felons to vote as well that have been released. So you're right. It is the whole idea is to get more and more Democrat votes. I played you that excerpt from Elacio Medina, one of the senior officials with the SEIU union. And he says if we can get 2/3 of these new citizens to be eligible to vote, they're going to vote for our progressive cause. We'll have a governing coalition for the long haul. That's what they're assuming. That's why they're doing this. We wouldn't be having this conversation if these people would likely vote Republican. Mindy, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Donald Trump also talked about this alleged dispute he's having with the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis.
I get along great with Ron. Ron was very good on the Mueller hoax. He was right up front along with Jim Jordan and all of the rest of them. They were fantastic. The Republicans really stuck together, and it was a great thing. And Ron was one of them. And Ron wanted to run, and I endorsed him, and that helped him greatly. And he went on, and he's done a really terrific job in Florida. And I think, Ron has been very good. He's been a friend of mine for a long time. It's totally fake news. I think Ron said last week, he said it very publicly. He says, the press is never going to get in the middle of my friendship with Donald Trump.
Now, 3-week quick start, $19.95. Less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. After that, we're talking about less than the cost of a cup of coffee a day for you to stay out of pain. The doctors who formulated Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, each of which are drug-free, to deal with pain from a separate metabolic pathway. If you've got back, shoulder, neck, hip, foot, knee pain, consider ordering the 3-week quick start, $19.95. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384. We come back, we're going to be playing Phone-a-Bro. It'll be Carol versus Mark. Find out where Carol is from. There's no location. Carol versus Mark.
I'm too fast. Champion from the crib. I'm the king. King born to tell. Born to champ from the crib. Ah!
I'm feeling great. I'm ready to go to war right now. I'm handsome, I'm fast, I'm pretty, and can't possibly be beat.
I have tussled with a whale, I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in jail. Now you know I'm bad. Only last week I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick.
888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. That can only mean one thing. It is time for Phone a Bro. What are the rules? Kirk.
Okay, Larry is going to play 5 sound clips from this week's show, and all you have to do is guess who's speaking. And if you can't guess, then you can ask for a clue. Phone a Bro, and you'll get one of my world-renowned clues to help you get the answer.
Now we've got 2 contestants. We have Mark from Atlanta. We have Carol from New Jersey. Mark called in first, so let's go to Mark first. Mark, how are you?
Larry, I'm as good as it gets.
That sounds good. That sounds wonderful. Now, Mark, you are called in first, and sometimes the person who called in first likes to let his or her opponent go first. You can let Carol go first if you want, or you can try and go first yourself. Maybe you might want to run the table.
I'm going to run the table, Larry.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Soundbite number 1. You have to get this one on your own. You cannot use a phone a bro for soundbite number 1. Here we go.
But I do not regret my decision to end America's war fighting in Afghanistan and maintain
Mark, who's that gentleman? I'll play it one more time.
President Joe, Mr. Magoo Biden.
Okay. Soundbite number 2, and you can use a phone a bro if necessary. Here we go.
I think everybody listening to that speech who's speaking on the level, as my mother would say, would note that he was not comparing them as humans. He was comparing the choice.
That's Jen Psaki.
That is Jen Psaki. Soundbite number 3, and again, you can use a phone a bro if necessary, Mark.
And these two are basically saying to us they don't care. They don't care about us. They don't care what it means to weaken our ability to participate in this democracy.
That is crazy Maxine Waters.
That is. 3 for 3. Soundbite number 4. You can use a phone a bro if necessary.
I think that part of the reason that answer stood out so much is because some of the other answers were kind of foggy and meandering. I think you have to be honest that you can be a foggy, meandering president, say like Reagan near the end, if you're winning.
Let's phone a bro.
He is a pundit on CNN. And on election night in 2016, he attributed Trump's victory to a white lash.
Oh, God, I can see him in my head. His name is Val Taylor or something. Vince something.
All right, Mark, do not go away. Carol, you are up. Carol, you're in the game. Carol, how are you?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Carol's from New Jersey, by the way.
Is that Don Lemon?
Carol, you could have used a phone a bro. You could have gotten a hint.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, don't go anywhere. Mark, you gave the last correct answer. That gentleman is Van Jones. That's what you were trying to say, Van Jones. But we're now down to the fifth and final clue. Yeah, fifth and final clue.
Yeah.
And this is for all the marbles. And you can use a phone a bro since this is a new round. Here we go.
It is more difficult for the average African American to vote than the average white American. That is not rhetoric. That is fact. We know that black voters, on average, are forced to wait online.
And again, you can use a phone a bro if necessary, Mark.
Hey, phone it. Let's phone it.
He is a senator from the state of New Jersey, where Carol resides.
Oh, goodness gracious. She's going to win if I miss her.
Well, you better try.
Oh, God. It's either Rodriguez or Martinez.
Martinez. Oh, my goodness. All right. Mark, please don't go away. All right, Carol. Carol, this was teed up for you, Carol. Again, Carol, you can use a phone number if you need one. But let me play it again before you give me the answer.
I believe it's Cory Booker.
You believe it's Cory Booker? You are right.
Somebody give me an amen.
Thank you.
Carol, nicely done.
I know his voice.
Yeah. Well, can you put Mark on, Mr. McConnell? Can you do that? Can you do that from where you are?
Oh.
Hold on. Let's just get Mark to weigh in here.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Mark did a very good job.
Mark
I
said
thought he was great.
He set it up for you. Mark, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, Mark.
He's a nice guy.
Larry, it was such a good game, and I actually won 3-1.
Oh, Mark, you were great.
Really
you did a great job.
And I think she should get a prize. We should both get a prize.
You think so? Well,
yeah.
Carol, do you think Mark should get something since he did so much work? It's up to you, Carol.
Yes,
Carol, you thumbs up or thumbs down, like the gladiators in Rome. Thumbs up or thumbs down, Carol. What do you want to do?
No, he definitely deserves something.
Okay, deserves something.
In my opinion.
All right. Well, you both stay on the line and put them both on hold, Mr. McConnell, so we don't lose Carol, we don't lose Mark, and make sure that we get Mark's vital information as well as Carol's. We're going to give them both a copy of A Lot Like Me because Mark did all that work and Carol swooped in there and just kind of picked it off. So very nicely played, guys. I appreciate it. Now, last week we had a question about how many state capitals are also the largest city of that state. And I told you that there were 17, but I didn't name them. Arizona, Alaska, Colorado, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Ohio, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Utah, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Their capitals are also the largest cities in those states. I'm Larry Elder. 888-971, SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. We have just a few minutes left in this show. I want to get right to a local news clip. Listen to this about face masks.
1 week after the ABC 7 News I team uncovered millions of dollars in PPE sitting in the rain in San Mateo County, a familiar sight in San Benito County now. Thousands more boxes of PPE not only sitting outside in unwieldy stacks, but heading to the recycling center to be shredded. So what in the world is going on? ABC 7 News I team reporter Dan Noyes is back with an update to his exclusive investigation. Dan?
Dan, our investigation from last week is getting a huge reaction across the country. More than 600,000 views on TikTok alone. I received many comments on the report, but also tips to investigate. Luke Markham and his wife saw something familiar in last week's I-Team report from San Mateo County, showing all that PPE, including hospital gowns, sitting in the rain. Hospital gowns in all different sizes. Here's size M. There's large. And of course, here's double XL.
She's watching the video, and it's the same company, ICU Eyewear Corporation. She says, Luke, that's the same company as over on Sheldon Drive. If they're letting it sit out in the rain in San Mateo, what's going on over on Sheldon Drive?
The Markhams messaged me, so I met them in Hollister yesterday, went to the ICU Eyewear warehouse and found this. Thousands of boxes of PPE stacked high, containing millions of plastic face shields. Some of the columns on the verge of collapsing, and forklifts loading them onto flatbeds. I followed the trucks to a nearby recycling center and saw the face shields going to the shredder.
To throw away PPE? That's outrageous. I'm a COVID survivor. This is still a pandemic. We are going into year number 3. This is not okay.
Markham took his complaint to his county supervisor. B. Gonzalez is the board's chair.
I discovered that these masks were being destroyed at the request of the federal government.
Why would the federal government be requiring this county and this business to destroy face shields in a pandemic?
That I couldn't answer you, and as I said, there's more questions that are answers, and the further questions we ask, the bigger the hole gets.
ICU Eyewear CEO Kirk Hobbs declined to be interviewed on camera or have a recorded phone conversation. He told me today the face shields are not being shredded on orders of the federal government. Hobbs says there was no market for them and that a staff looked for some place to donate the face shields but failed. I understand how bad this looks, he said. Optically, how wasteful this is. We didn't come to this place without trying. We put in a great deal of effort to find a place where they can be used.
I wonder how much that costs the taxpayers. I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Go Browns. I'm Larry Elder. Predicting Tom Brady advances in the playoffs. He's got a critical game against the Los Angeles Rams right here in L.A. from where I am broadcasting. But I got to tell you, I'm going with the old guy. Old number 12, TD, Tom Brady. Let's hear it for the crowd that goes, "Get off of my lawn!" On the next Larry Elder Show. On the next Larry Elder Show. You too. Larry Elder here with great news. My good friend Eric Hallaby, CEO of TFS Financial, CEO of Larry Elder here with great news. My good friend Arif Halaby, CEO of TFS Financial Insurance Services, is hosting a free dinner and informative evening discussing reliable retirement income February 9th right here in Glendale. Arif designs a higher income strategy that allows you to keep both your principal and your gains, providing you with reliable retirement income. So I urge you to register right now for Arif's important eye-opening retirement presentation. And I'll be stopping by to say hello. And all attendees will receive a free autographed copy of I'll be stopping by to say hello, and all attendees will receive a free autographed copy of my latest book, A Lot Like Me. So hurry, the dinner and event are free, but you must register right now. Seating is limited to just 8 people, seating 8 feet apart. That's February 9th at 6 p.m. Call Total Financial Solutions right now to reserve your seat at 888-99-RETIRE, 888-99-RETIRE. That's 888-99-RETIRE.